Hello, welcome to Rosset Bespoke Butler School. So today we're talking about house management and more specifically SOPs. So if you don't know what SOP stands for, it's Standard Operating Procedures. So it's the way you live your life as a house manager and you ensure the perfect running of the house for your clients. When you're creating the SOPs for the house and for the job as house manager, you need to be as detailed as possible. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, a couple of properties that we look after, one of which is a castle in the remote north of Scotland. The other is a mansion in the middle of London. Now, the clients are similar, in as much as they have similar expectations and standards, but the properties themselves are very, very different. The property in Scotland is actually rented out for exclusive use, so that's one reason that I can actually tell you the name of that castle is Uniqueness Castle, which is just north of Inverness. And like I say, I can talk about that and I'm not breaching any sort of confidentiality with the client because we actually advertise that castle for people to come and stay in. The property in central London, I can't tell you anything specifically about that property because it's for a private client and we look after it for them and no one ever going to know about it. So there's some very different challenges just within those two things. One, a challenge of keeping everything secret, not letting anyone know about anything, like when you're getting contractors, when you're getting quotes, things like that. At no point can they know anything about the property that they're working on until everything's fairly sealed up. With the castle, there's a public face of the castle that they can know everything about, but you still would not want to let any of the details of the owner because it's a private owner and you're not going to speak about the owner's private details. So it's a twofold thing. So if we just go back to the standard operating procedures, what we have is we have them on file on computer. Some people find it useful to have a printed and bound version as well. This is something that I always used to have, but in these days of small, lightweight computers, iPads, things like that, it's getting less and less necessary to physically print them out. I tend to just have it as a sort of PDF and it can just be uploaded to whatever you're working on. I tend to actually do everything these days on Google Documents. Therefore, the moment that it's saved to Google Documents, it's immediately on all of my hardware, whether it be my PC, my Chromebook, my Samsung tablet. It's just on all of them automatically. So this, the one here is my team have created this really great SOP for Uniqueness Castle here. And it really goes into a lot of detail, and that's what it has to do. So it starts with an overview of the castle, which is outlining the sort of how it's going to be used, how it's going to be looked after. It explores the role of the butler and the house manager within the property. Therefore, just a brief outline of the duties as expected. From there, it goes on to security. So they go through all of the security procedures, the things that one would need to know if you were to take over the security, what's expected, tips and tricks that the butler needs to ensure when they're dealing with any third parties. Then you move on to your health and safety. And we've got pages of health and safety here. We've got COSH, we've got, which is control of substances harmful to health. We've got fire extinguishers, where they all are, what they all are, when they need servicing, when they need checking. Open fires, when they're swept, when they next need swept. Carbon monoxide detectors, as we mentioned, fire detectors, sounders, or everything. And that's the point. Everything has to be in this book so it doesn't get forgotten. And the same with the London property. London property is a smaller property, but nonetheless it has to be equally detailed. There are also a lot of different challenges, especially when it comes to security. So you're looking at one property where your difficulty with security is very remote. There's no one nearby. It needs to be watched all the time, which is why there is members of the team there 24/7. So at no point is that building left empty. In London, you've got the opposite problem. It's in a very, very busy metropolitan area. So there's a different kind of a risk. You've got a risk from the volume of people that see that property. You've got possible risks from riots and demonstrations because it's in an area which is very near a lot of the embassies and things like that. So there's a lot of different things to look at there. I was once in a different property in central London, and directly outside the property was a suspected device. Turned out not to be a device, it was someone's sandwiches, but a suspected device. And these things happen very fast. In fact, so much so that the police did not knock on the door of the property I was looking after and just assumed that no one was in it. They were. I was in it. A bit later, completely no idea what was going on because no one had told me. Stuck my head out the window and shouted down to one of the policemen, "Excuse me, officer, what's going on?" To which he was very shocked and was like, "I had no idea there was anyone in this property. We've evacuated the street because we've got a device." So I'm like, "Should I leave?" And he's like, "Well, actually, at this point now, you're better off moving towards the back of the property and going that way." And that's basically what I had to do. And, you know, it was fine. It was someone's sandwiches, so there was no risk at all. But it's a very different set of risks depending where you are. Now, that's why, well, one of the reasons why these have to be unique to every property. Someone was recently asking me, they had like really good feedback and they asked me some questions. They said, you know, could I send them a template for the SOPs? And it's something that, you know, I'm really happy to help people out, but they're actually all totally unique. So even if I was to send out a template, it's not necessarily that helpful because we write them all from the ground up for each individual property. Every bedroom is listed, every item in the house is listed. So there's thousands of items individually listed. The care of those items is also on drop-down menus from them. So if you were talking about a 16th century armoire, and then we click on the 16th century armoire and it shows us the things we need to know, things we need to look out for, like woodworm, how often does it need waxing, what sort of humidity is correct for the room where it's in, you know, all that kind of stuff. So these end up being, to be honest, vast documents, but they have to be easy to navigate, which is why it's so much easier now that we can put them in the electronic format, because when you're talking about a huge encyclopedic book, physical book. There's no index. You need a good index. It's a very good point. You need a good index that you can click to and immediately go to the thing you need to look at the time. Because if you're in the house and you're looking at something thinking, oh, I need to know about this, you need to be able to click on it quickly and get straight to the point. So, I mean, if I was to just sort of just pick something at random, obviously I'm not going to pick anything that's sort of sensitive to the property. But if I was just to sort of go here, we'll see that we have a list from the bar. So this is like the bar in the side of the dining room. You see 12 wooden chairs red, 2 chairs green, 1 small table, sink, and it goes on like this. You may be thinking, isn't this a bit over the top? Do you need to add this much detail? But actually, it's far from over the top. It's incredibly useful. This is something that every house manager should do. It takes a lot of time. I mean, weeks to set up. But of course, once it's done, all it needs is just general, if something changes, it needs to be updated. So it just needs to be regularly updated. It's not something that's ongoing labour. So you can think to yourself, you know, let's give you an example. Say if you're talking about a sort of 15-bedroom house and you're doing it on your own and you can concentrate on doing that. So it's not just doing it in between other duties, because that will take a lot longer. But if you can, you should be able to get that done within a week. So working sort of 10 to 12 hours a day, going around the house, doing everything, you should be able to do that within a week or so, depending on how much stuff is in the house and all these kind of things. If you're doing it in with other duties, obviously it's going to take you longer, maybe a month or something. But once it's done, then it's going to save you a lot of time and effort in the future, so it's well worthwhile. So I hope that is helping you a bit more with the SOPs and how they need to be done. Like I say, unfortunately I can't really send out any sort of templates of this, because it's not really how it works. You know, when we do it as a consultancy for people, sometimes we send out the team and this is what we do. We create these and then we are hands off and let the house staff continue from that point. That's part of our consultancy. But it takes a lot of man hours to do. It's not something that can just be done overnight. You know, maybe if you had a sort of 1-bedroom flat, then you could probably do it overnight. But then it's not often people with 1-bedroom flats that are asking for this kind of service. So thanks very much. I'm going to come back to this, and we're going to, in the next one, we'll do a series of these specifically house manager modules. And in the next one, I think we're going to look at the maintenance of the house and how this SOPs transitions into your maintenance schedule. Something that's imperative to your job as a house manager is having a good maintenance schedule, because everything within the property will be expected to be in perfect condition at all times. So that's what the next house management module is going to be. It's going to be the maintenance schedule. So I look forward to you joining me again for that one. Please feel free to ask any questions, comment below, or send us an email or anything like that. Always happy to help if I can. So thank you very much. I'll be speaking to you again soon. Please make sure you remember to like the video and subscribe. There's playlists, the Butler School watch list that you can subscribe to on YouTube, and that will just mean it's a lot easier for you to navigate and to see all the videos rather than seeing all the other videos that tend to pop up in between while you're trying to sort of watch these series of instructional Butler School videos. Right, well, thanks very much and goodbye.